It's time for the Traci Shoblom Show.
Hello. This is Traci Shoblom, and I'm smiling. And the reason I'm smiling is because of this silly, cheesy little opening to my show. It makes me happy. And yes, it's cheesy, but so am I. So welcome to my world. This is Traci Shoblom. You are listening to the Traci Shoblom Show, which is kind of handy. And I'm broadcasting to you alive, barely, from Glendora, California, the sleepy little community that is nestled in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains in the greater Los Angeles area, which these days, with no traffic or smog or other people, really is a great place to live. Welcome to my show. Today, I would like to talk to you about something that actually can make a massive difference in your life. Are you ready? Because, I know that when you say something like that, it's like, oh, wow, what could it be? And it's true. It really is. It made a massive difference in my life. I've always sort of been this way, not to give away too much. I've always sort of been this way, but it really was reinforced in the last, let's say, 15 years, that a tiny, tiny little shift in your thinking can make a huge leveraged impact in the quality of your life. The people who know me in my real life are constantly telling me that they're shocked at how resilient I am, that things happen to me that would flatten most folks, and I bounce right back up again. And I'm not saying that because I want you to be so impressed with how amazing I am, although I do, but more because I want you to be able to embrace and adopt this in your own life. I've made it my life's goal, my life's mission, actually, to really help people learn how to weather the storms of their lives. So in, 2008 or something, my husband at the time, he was just getting sick. He was getting progressively sicker and sicker. He was tired. He was never really the healthiest guy on the planet. He drank, he smoked, he ate terribly. He was a security guy, and one of his clients was McDonald's, and they literally gave him free McDonald's every day for a year so that he would come there. So this man ate McDonald's every day for a year. So he was not a healthy guy to start off with. But what happened in early 2008 was it started getting even worse. And by September of that year, he was profoundly ill and, sleeping. Our daughter's birthday party in October, he didn't get out of bed. He was literally too sick to get out of bed. So finally, I dragged him to the doctor, and he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and sent immediately, do not stop at go, to the hospital, where he was implanted with an internal defibrillator and put on the transplant list. So here I am. I've got two really little kids, a somewhat shaky marriage, and a guy that's, very, very sick and likely to die. And it devastated me, of course, as it would anybody in my position. And it launched what we in our family now euphemistically call the year of anger. And there was a lot of fighting and a lot of drama. And it was, as I look back on it now, probably the worst time of my life globally. I've had instances of things that have unique one-off things that have happened that were potentially worse. But for the most part, that was a terrible, terrible time. And I remember that Christmas, I was crying and just nonstop upset and stressing. And, he wasn't handling things the way I thought he should. And I wasn't reacting the way I wanted to. And it was just awful. And I was sitting there at my computer, and I was crying at something. And this little voice inside my head said to me, why don't you just be happy? And the thing was I did want to be happy. I was tired of crying all the time. I was tired of angsting and worrying and thinking about what could possibly happen and projecting out about it, okay, what am I going to do when he dies, and how am I going to live, and what am I going to be, and all those thoughts that were just, but then I thought to myself, well, you can't be happy right now. You've got a sick husband, and how's it going to look if you're just walking around smiling happy all the time? You can't be happy. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. Not forever, and I'm not being, Debbie denial about this stuff. But I missed being happy. I missed waking up in the morning and feeling good, and I missed smiling and laughing and that lightness that comes with being happy. And so I chose it. I chose happiness, and it sounds crazy and it sounds Pollyanna, but I did. Every time I started to get angsty or upset or go down that dark rabbit hole of what if, I was like, no, I'm not going to let this external circumstance take away my internal sense of happiness. And I would immediately shift my mind to something in the room, in the moment, that I could be happy about. Whether it was something cute that my son was doing, I actually ended up creating some of my best work during that period of time. I was funny. I sort of channeled it to humor. I made funny videos. I wrote funny articles. I wrote a book. It was just, I channeled the anger into a way that ended up being somewhat productive. And I threw myself into charity. I adopted a family that Christmas, and every time I started to go low, I forced myself to go high. And you can do that. It's not easy necessarily, but it really is just a subtle mental shift. And right now in the culture that we're all living in, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. Because you may be sitting here listening to me thinking, oh yeah, that's easy for you to say, Traci. You didn't lose your business. You're not laying off employees. You didn't lose your job. You're not worried about feeding your family. Yes, I was. And yes, I did. I was worried about all the same things then, 15 years ago, that we're all worried about now. I didn't know how I was going to feed my family. My breadwinner person was fixing to die on me. We didn't have a will. We had all these terrible, terrible scenarios. That was my personal coronavirus. And you know what? Here I am 15 years later on the other end of it. And 90% of the stuff that I thought was going to happen didn't happen. Literally, it didn't happen. So all these horrible things in your head that you're thinking about, that you're like, oh, but this is going to happen. You don't know that. You don't know. That guy that I was married to is still alive. He's not married to me anymore, but he's still alive and he's healthy-ish. He quit smoking and he, cleaned up his diet and he's on medication and he lived long enough to see our children grow up, and all that stuff that I was worried about didn't happen. And you know what? Other stuff happened instead. So my point is that for today, for this moment that you're listening to me, when you turn off this podcast, focus on what can I do right now to feel happy, that's thinking happy thoughts. That's looking at something that consistently makes you feel warm and fuzzy and happy. Smile. Look at the bright side. It sounds trite, but it really makes a difference. Before I go, I want to just give you a little sort of scientific-esque idea as to why this makes such a difference in your life, because it's not about just like, okay, I'm going to be happy. What happens when you're happy is our brains go, oh, okay, stand down from the threat. We're all right. And you stop producing the stress hormones and you start producing the feel-good hormones. So then your body just kind of starts to I have dogs. And when your dog is finally circling and circling and circling, and then it finally flops down to take a nap, and it just goes, and it just groans, and then it goes to sleep. That's what relaxing your mind does to your body. It allows that stress loop to stop, and you just finally relax, and your body relaxes, your stress hormones go away, you digest your food better, you sleep better. So there's a physiological, healthy reason to be more optimistic, to be more resilient. And the more you do it, the more resilient you get. It's like a muscle that builds, so that certainly 15 years down the road, you could be a person that nothing gets to you. Nothing gets to you, no matter what happens to you in your life. You're like, I got this. And that's the best thing, because nobody can ever take it away once it's inside. All right. I think I've gone on long enough. But for today, I would like for everyone to, don't worry, be happy. And sign up, subscribe, message me, find me all over the interwebs. I wanna get to know you guys for the Traci Shoblom Show. I'm gonna try something new. Let's see if I can. I think this is applause, because I'm gonna give myself a round of applause. Yay! See you later, everybody.